pink glow on here. I got the black lights going. Yes, I'm definitely the artsy type mom. uh, well, all of these pieces actually have been sold, so I'm very excited about that. So I'm really, really happy. So, welcome, guys. Looks like Facebook is up and live now. So, we're going to get started on our topic tonight. So, our topic tonight is we're going to talk about managing the changes of healing. And so, I'm going to bounce back and forth between personal healing and also change management stuff because we are going to be able to go through. Um, in our personal lives of understanding the changes that we have to go through to become happier and no different than the changes that we have to go through in order to be happier in our business as well, right? Um, so these correlate together, and it's also a lot of the stuff that I've done to help with my own personal healing and getting through some of the trauma stuff that I have been through. And I know it's very popular these days not to, like, just focus on today and move forward from that. Don't worry about the past. Why do you have to bring all that stuff up? Just change your actions from today. And that's not always um, a, a good thing. Yes, you can change your actions from today, and yes, that will change some of the results of what is going to happen for the future. But oftentimes, what will happen is you'll hit whatever goals or whatever things that you wanted to change on the outside. And I'm sorry to hear that, Baze, that your sister died 3 years ago today. I'm so sorry. So as you're going through these changes, you end up having to look at what it is that affected you. Hey, Alfred, good to see you. Bobby, Bobby named Chico. You come up with the craziest stuff. This guy gets around too. Mm. So, going through the changes of healing. So, getting stuck, everybody wants to talk about just change the things that are going on for you today, and then that'll change your future. And yes, that'll happen, but oftentimes you'll hit whatever goal or target that you're wanting to change, and then um, you end up, give them a hug for me too, okay? You end up looking at it and realizing that emotionally, internally, you still don't have the happiness that you thought that you would have. Why? Because you still have those chains from the past that are pulling on you. And so then you end up looking for the next thing to try and fulfill you, to try and heal that wound, right? So what we do is we look to our past to be able to understand the thought patterns that got us to this point of unhappiness, that got us to the point of whatever, if it's a business thing, of, whatever broken piece in the business it is, or broken piece in ourselves, the dysfunction, the unhappiness that we're feeling. We look at the past to find out where that was connected. What were the choices that we made leading up to this point so that we understand how we got to this point, why we're here, what happened, and what kind of thought patterns led us to this point. And then when we can start looking at that, we start looking for correlations into where else is this happening, either in the business or in my personal life, of that these kind of thought patterns, these behaviors of what we're doing and how we're operating, and how that's still holding us back. And I know for myself, and I always share personal experiences on here because I want you guys to understand that these are tools that I've actually used, that I use in my everyday life, and that these are things that have worked for me and still work for me to be able to help me understand and move forward and change the things that I really want to change in my life. And So when I start understanding what is it that's holding me back from the past, why is it that I'm not moving forward in the way that I want to, and how is that um, still tied to the past? What are the thought patterns? What are the unexpressed emotions that are still there that are because you are not, when you're in denial, you cannot actually solve the problem, right? So you can put band-aids on it, you can kind of gloss over things, and you can make it look all shiny on the outside. But if you are in denial, it means you don't even know that you're lying. So you haven't acknowledged how you were hurt, why you were hurt, what happened that hurt you, and how that changed you. Because when we get hurt, it does change us. And sometimes it changes us for the better, and sometimes it changes us for the worse. And so understanding the impact of that pain, that trauma that had happened in the past, Katie, got to run around with her toy. So when we understand the impact of those changes, and then we make the correlation to how this is impacting us in today, then it's a real eye opener. It's a real aha moment, and that's where you get that insight, that clarity, and the cloud of denial gets taken away. So now you can see more clearly. Now you have a better understanding of what the true problem is. Instead of trying to fix the surface level stuff, you're able to get down to the root cause of what the actual issue is. And then you can start examining what it is that you really need to implement and change, right? So if we think of situations, like for myself, when we are looking to the past, we're not looking to the past as a way to wallow in what happened or blame it on, oh, it's all my parents' fault or it's all my abuser's fault. If they hadn't done this to me, then I wouldn't be like this. That's not what we're trying to do. We're understanding that these things happened, that it did affect us, and it is a contributing factor to how we behave today. And we don't use it as a reason of explaining, well, that's just the way I am. So, you know, that thing happened, so therefore it's okay for me to be this way. And so when we start to acknowledge, it can be really challenging when we're going through this healing process. And we might think, Tina, this is not making me friggin' happy whatsoever. It's making me more miserable. Yes, in order for us to change, we have to go through a dip. We have to, it's like we have to let go of the old ways. And that can be a very painful experience of letting go of who we thought we were up until this point, right? And it's like that part of us, it's like a living entity, and it will fight to stay alive. It will fight to remain exactly who it was. And when you want to change, you know, so you might be up here and you might be doing really well. The camera. There we go. So you might be up here doing really well, and you're like, I'm going to make this change. And then all of a sudden you drop down. It's like drop zone at Wonderland, you know, and it is terrifying and it's scary. And you are like, is this safe? Am I going to make it through, or am I just going to crash and burn, right? And so it can be really challenging when we go to make those changes. And it's no different in business. When we go to make big changes, and I've seen this in many different situations from my corporate background in change management. And so what'll happen is you'll go through and you'll implement these changes. And as everybody in the organization starts to go through these changes, you're going to have a dip in productivity, you're going to have a dip in revenue, you're going to have a dip in understanding. Everybody's going through a whole learning curve, and just being able to understand what's going on, that there are these challenges, that you're going to have a dip. And know that that is normal, and then you're supposed to be able to come back out of that by understanding this process. Things have been rough everywhere, so I just wanted to pop in and say you got this and you're a good person. Oh, thank you so much, Rebel Nation. I appreciate you. So when we go through these changes, knowing that there is this dip and we have to go through this pain, this lack in us, as we tear apart the things that we don't want. Like, think about anytime you go to clean out a closet, you have to pull everything out of the closet, and if you look around in the room, everything's a mess. And you're just like, oh, why did I start this? This is a disaster, right? And this is kind of what healing work is like, right? You go to pull everything out, but then you, just like in the present, you have to sift and sort, going, and you look at each item that you found in the closet. Sometimes you're like, I forgot all about this. I didn't even know I had this thing. Oh, wow. It's kind of like Christmas, opening this stuff up. And sometimes you're like, oh, I remember that. I can't believe I was into that. What was I thinking? Oh my God, I definitely want to get rid of that. And so this whole healing process, this change process, is a matter of clearing out the things, and then we bring it to the present moment. And then, because we have a better understanding of what happened in the past, how it got us here, what our thought processes are, we can start to evaluate what are the things that we want to keep and what are the things that we truly want to let go of and that we can lay to rest. But you can't do that if you're still in denial that you were even hurt by the things that happened in the past, right? No different than if you're in business and you had a bad process in place, but you don't want to look at what that process was that got you there. You you have to understand where the breakdowns happen, right? So we do this in business all the time. We absolutely need to understand where the breakdowns happen, right? You know, we thought we were going along. We thought if we took these actions, we should get these results. So why didn't we get these results? So you, of course, in business are going to break that down. You're going to look at the past and go, okay, well, what were the calls like? What were, like, you know, how did the people come in? What happened? What was the process? Where, you know, how was the interaction, right? You would examine all of these things, and yet those very same people that are in business oftentimes will not look at the past, their own personal past, in this same light. They would find it absolutely ridiculous not to operate that way in a business, yet they refuse to look at their own past and their own challenges that they had in their personal past, and be able to look at it through that same light, and start by looking at, well, what actually happened in my past? What are the thought process that I thought were going to happen? What actually happened? How did I get to where I am now? And what is it that I want to keep? What is it that I want to change? And we have to go through this whole cleaning out the process. So thank you so much, Rebel Nation. I appreciate you. Thank you, Gig, for liking the live and tapping the screen, sharing the live. For those of you on Facebook, type in hashtag live if you're watching the live. Type in hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. And if I think I forgot to introduce myself, but if you made it this far, my name is Tina. I'm a happiness coach, and I help people go through the challenges of depression, anxiety, frustration, angry feelings, sad feelings, grief, loss, any of those kind of things, right? Because as we go through changes, there is a loss that we have to grieve the old ways, right? And sometimes that can be done quicker, sometimes that takes a little bit longer, depending on the extent of the situations that you've been through. And no different than even in corporate, right? Just like change management. Little changes happen, it's not a big deal that you let go of the old way, you implement the new process, and you move on. But when you are doing big changes, like a system change or a culture change, that takes a whole lot more in-depth understanding of the emotions so that you can move through those in a proper way and help the people on your team move through that in a proper way. And so what I do is I help business owners be able to manage those changes, whether it's the personal, internal stuff, if you need more of that work, or if we want to look at more of a change management approach for your business and your team and helping your team deal with the emotions. Because I can promise you, even if you haven't been through trauma, somebody on your team has been through trauma, and they may or may not have dealt with that past trauma, and that will affect and cost your business. So change management is all about the process of helping people adapt to the changes. And so this works very well, especially if you have a trauma-informed approach like I do. And I pull in both my personal and my professional experiences to give you guys examples that you can start to implement right away today so that you can start seeing positive changes in what is going on for you. So jumping back to the topic that we were talking about, we're talking about managing the change of healing. And so in the first step, we have to look at our past. We have to understand what we've been through, what kind of damage was caused, how that made us feel, what kind of thought processes developed out of that, and are they effective or are they not effective? This is not to get us stuck in the past. This is not to wallow or say, well, that's just the way it is and it can't be changed, because I absolutely don't believe that we have to stay stuck in our situations, that the whole point of change management is pulling everybody together and truly understanding how can we solve this problem? And it has to come from a belief that the problem is actually solvable. And maybe we can't get to the end state or the perfect state of what we want, but we can definitely start making progress. And so we do this by, in the second step, in reviewing our present situation, understanding what are the ways, determine if the old ways still work, right? No different than the SOP, right? You look at your SOPs and go, does this process still work, or have things changed? Does it need to be updated? Does it need to be refreshed, or does it just need to be reinforced and reminded? And so you determine that, and same thing with your own personal healing. You have to look at, do these old things that I've been taught maybe in the past, or my old ways of behaving from the past, do they still work for me? Or do I need to update my own personal SOPs? Do I need to say, this isn't working. I thought I was going to be able to get this result. This isn't sustainable for me. This doesn't make me happy. This isn't good. I'm not getting the results that I want. And even if you are getting the results that you want, can you be getting them better? Can you be getting better results? Could you be doing more? Could you be happier in the way that you're doing it? Can you be more efficient? All of those kind of things. So it doesn't necessarily, you can look at change, and sometimes people will say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, you also don't want to be fixing the barn door after the horse has escaped, kind of thing, right? So you have to find this balance, and by looking at this stuff and reviewing, does this stuff still work? Are we still getting results from it? Or are things starting to slip? Are things starting to change? Are there other variables that have come into play that these old ways of behaving or thinking or processes no longer work, and now they need to be updated? So, and of course, we can't do that if we haven't looked at the past and we're still operating from a place of denial, because denial means don't even know I am lying. And so if we are in denial about what the true problem is, we won't allow ourselves to dig down to the root. Whatever solutions we put in place are only going to be temporary solutions, and we'll be back at the drawing board going, this still isn't working, and now we've exhausted all of this effort into something that was only surface level. Whereas if we truly dig down, right? And it's a matter of like when you think of like renovating a house, right? If you know that there's problems with the foundation, yeah, you can put like patch up a few surface level cracks, but that's not going to solve the problem, and it's going to come back up again. Now you might be like, well, it's not my problem. This the next homeowner's problem, right? And you could do that, or you could fix the root of the problem, fix it properly, and take the time to do that instead of using band-aid solutions with it. And when we have a clear understanding of what the problems were and how it impacted us personally, or if we're looking at a business example, we understand how it's impacted the business, and then we have a clear identification of what the problem is. We understand why we want to change it, and we understand um, who we have to become. Katie, come here. Come on. We have to understand who we have to become in order to change the things that we've identified. And we also have to identify how we're going to start moving forward. What are the action steps that we are going to take to start implementing these changes? And then we also have to understand an evaluation process of, are these changes that we've put in place actually working for us? Or because sometimes we'll go and put in things that we think are going to work and they actually make things worse. And we have to take a look, is it worse short term? Like the example I gave of like when you clear out your closet and you're like, okay, the action steps we're going to take to clear out this closet is we have to take everything out of the closet and we have to put it in the room. And we start looking around and we kind of go, this is a mess, this is a shit show, this isn't working, this is terrible, this is more work than we thought. And anybody who's done their own do-it-yourself home renovations, anybody I know, they've always started to fix one thing, and as they go to fix one thing, they discover, 5 or 10 other problems that they didn't know that they had, right? So that can be part of the process as you're doing healing work, is as you start unearthing some of these things, you're like, well, shit, I didn't know I had this and this and this, and this was a lot more than I thought. But uncovering those problems is still a blessing in disguise, because if you didn't know about them and they continue to be a problem undetected, that causes way more damage than you are aware of, and it costs more in your business. Think of things that you found out much later that have been going on for a long time. Did it not end up being a huge problem that you weren't aware of? I've cleaned up so many messes in business because of this. So many accounts receivable, accounts receivable collections kind of things that I've been asked to clean up. And it's because they didn't have proper processes, they didn't have documented rates, they had too many people not understanding what needed to be done, and ended up in duplicate billing invoices. And so they thought that there was supposed to be all of this outstanding money that was collected, and most of the time it was incorrect billing because two other people weren't aware of what the other ones were doing. So not being aware of a problem can cost you a huge amount. So when I came in to clean things up, they were not happy because they thought they were going to be getting, an extra $300,000. And when I cleaned everything up by eliminating and writing off the duplicate invoices, that accrual hit their books, and now they were not only were they not getting that 300,000, but it's a hit, like it's a drop, right? And so I made the mistake of not properly communicating that correction to the VP, and you know, I got in trouble for doing the right thing and cleaning things up. So that can happen, right? But letting that kind of problem go on undetected, and that's what had happened. It had gone on for over a year, that this stuff was outstanding, and why can't we get ahead, and why isn't this fixed, and why is this still a problem? And then when you get somebody to go in and dig around and figure out, oh, here's the root cause of the problem. And so not only did I identify that and correct the invoices, but I also put in processes and educated and made sure that we now had systems in place to prevent those errors from happening again. We had checks and balances, sanity checks put in place to prevent those things because we're now aware of it. So it's no different than when you are doing your own personal healing, that you have to become aware of how did you get to this point, that it got this way, that you're this unhappy, that you're just going through the motions of life, that you're feeling depressed, that you're feeling anxious, that you are so frustrated and pissed off and angry all the time, or you're just really sad, or you're numb. Any of those kind of feelings, when you're in that state, there's things that have gone on for a long period of time that have not been detected, and now we have to do this work and understand where is this coming from, dig this stuff up, and really understand what is it that we need to change, and who do we have to become, and how do we have to get there, what are the action steps that we need to take, right? um, and so the third thing is if we want our lives to be happier, if we want our businesses to be happier, if we want our future to be that way, we have to be able to identify what is it that's going to make us happy. We have to be clear about what that is. And if we are not clear about that, what that is, we will put things in place that don't really get us anywhere, that don't really help us, and we get stuck, and then we think, oh, this was a waste of time. I shouldn't have changed that. I shouldn't have done that kind of stuff. When really what we needed to do is a little bit more work in step two, and really understanding what is it that we want to change, and how do we envision that future, right? And now that we understand, when we think of, hey, if everything was cleared up and we understand what would make us happy, what are those behaviors? What are those processes? What are those things that that version of ourselves is doing? How do they operate? What is normal for that version, that future happier version of ourselves? What does that normal look like? And I remember when I first started in my healing journey, and I listened to a speaker that she had shared about the abuse that she had went through, and hers, and I've been through a lot, but hers was even worse. And it's not a matter of comparing. You know, mine might have been at a 10, hers might have been at a 20, my somebody else might be at a 5. That's not the point. Whatever hurt you, and if it's just one little thing, and that is, everybody else in the world says it's no big deal, but it hurt you, then it's valid. It hurt you. That's all that matters. You need to be able to acknowledge that, because if not, you're going to develop a whole bunch of other coping mechanisms to say that what you want doesn't matter, that what happened to you isn't important. And if you think of operating from that kind of level, and you carry that kind of thought process into your business, that what you want doesn't matter, that what you think doesn't matter, that, you know, the pain doesn't matter, all of that kind of stuff, when you carry that forward, then you're not only going to harm yourself, you're going to harm your business, and you are going to harm the people around you, because you're going to expect them to behave in the same way that you do. So when I was listening to this lady talk about what she had been through, And she had actually developed split personalities from the trauma that she had experienced, and to the point where she lost time. She had gaps of memory and blank, and so she shared some of that stuff, and I'm like, wow. But she also shared a book called The Woman's Comfort Book, and that was an amazing book. But what I remember and what I took away from this woman's talk is she talked not so much about all the stuff that had happened and how that affected her and everything. That was just enough to understand, but she focused more on what does living a happier life, if um, how does a healed life look like to me, what do what are the attributes, what are the components of that, what are the feelings that I will have if I wasn't affected by this trauma, if I wasn't affected by this pain, if I wasn't affected by the things that I've been through. What would having that happier business, that healthy business, that healthy personality, the personal life, I mean, healthy family, healthy friendships, what does that all look like for us, right? What would we feel like when we have those kind of things? And when we start to envision those kind of things and we then start looking for how can we bring more of that into today, not something that's a future goal, but how do we bring more of that into today? So just by taking the time to truly understand what is it that will make us happy and start implementing more of that today, and we start shortening the gap and we start becoming more happy in our present life. Because if we think of like a business example, so you're wanting to make these changes because you're frustrated, you're not making enough money, and that's causing a lot of anxiety and depression and uncertainty and fear and all of this kind of stuff. And you can't sleep at night and you're snapping at your spouse and you're like, man, if I could just get this problem fixed in the business, and we were making the money that we were supposed to, and now I won't have to lay off a half of the employees that I have, right? That I can keep everybody, that we can keep growing, that we can keep building in the business. We can start implementing this other thing I wanted to do in the business, but I haven't been able to do because I'm so stuck in all of these problems that I'm trying to solve. And so when we think of, well, what would it look like for us if that went away? What would we do next, right? What would we be able to implement? It's like, oh, okay, now this is no longer a problem and we have that working correctly. Now, all of this energy that I've been putting in, being stressed and upset and angry about what's going on in the business, now I can take a step back and kind of go, okay, now where do we want to go from here? How do we build the business rather than always in this state of fighting fires and problem solving? Now we can look at, what do we want to create? What do we want to, build out that we're going to be proud of? What is it that we want to um, change about the business, that every employee that I have on my team, that they brag about how great a place this is to work, how amazing it is, how good they feel coming into work every day? How do you want your customers to go bragging about how amazing they feel that they found your business to solve whatever problem that you solve for them, that they just love dealing with you, that if you're a restaurant, you're their favorite restaurant, if you're, a business that helps them with investing, that, they love working with you because they can trust you and they know that when they invest their money with you, that they are going to get the return. And, these are all the things that you want to be able to get to that point, but you can't do that if you're not actually looking at what is causing the trauma, either in your personal life or your business. And sometimes you can't tell the difference between the two, right? Because if you have problems in your personal life that haven't been dealt with, that is going to trickle over and it will affect your business. And if you have stuff going on in your business and you take that home and you snap at your kids, you snap at your wife, you kick your dog, whatever, don't kick your dog. That's not bad. That's not a good thing. That's really bad. But, you know, these frustrations, or even if you're by yourself and you are not living a happy, fulfilled life, you're going to feel empty. You're going to take that emptiness back to your business, and then it's just this energy that continues to cycle through. So, healing and change management are all part and parcel, they come together. And when you are aware of the emotions that happen, that will allow you to implement change faster in your business because you're much more aware. And I can promise you it's always the emotional stuff that end up causing problems in your business. So being unemotionally aware is no longer acceptable, and it is something we all must do. We must become aware of our feelings, and we must become aware of the feelings of those that we interact with. Not that we just get stuck in that kind of stuff, guys. And I know most of the time business owners are very much, I don't have time for this shit. Just need people to do the things that I fucking hired them to do and all of that kind of stuff. I know, I understand that frustration. It's like, but at the same time, we do need to take that step back because I know, and I'm sure you will find this too, when you are in a good mood, when you are in a happy place, when you feel like, oh man, everything is just sunshine and rainbows and you're feeling really good, do you not have more creativity? Do you not have more energy? Do you not find that whenever any problems or anything comes up, you're like, yeah, whatever, we can do this. We'll figure this out. We'll solve this, right? We'll work out a solution. And this is how we grow in our businesses and in our personal lives. So, guys, with that, those are the three things that I would recommend that we look at. We look at the past to find out how we got to where we are. We look at our present to figure out what it is that we want to keep, what it is that we want to leave. And thank you so much, Simba, for the art comments. I'm so excited that all of these pieces, I put them up in an auction and they've all been bid on. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm like, yay, proof of concept that this actually works. So and it's a win-win. So I always look for these win-wins. So I use this art as a way of my art therapy. It gives me happiness. It gives me time that I am able to clear my thoughts and I am able to think of some really great topics for me to talk about in the lives. And then I bring this here and as par for the course, I turn my hobbies into something that I can make money with. So, um, yeah, it's a win-win, and I like to do that stuff. Just like when I worked in corporate, I had a cake decorating business on the side, and that was a fun thing for me to do in the evenings. And yeah, so these things, it's had the entrepreneurial blood long before I even understood what it was. So I always worked my corporate job and then something on the side, just because that's how much I need to keep me out of trouble. So, guys, with that, I'm going to wrap this up. But if you're just jumping in now, go to my YouTube channel, which is Coach Tina B 125. Make sure you click on the subscribe button, and then you'll get notified when I've uploaded the replay of the live. So if you missed anything, you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, then you can go back, rewatch it. Or if you're like, oh, I remember Tina was talking about this thing. What the heck was she saying again? And then you can go back through. All right. So guys, thank you so much. And we will see you again tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye.